Have you ever thought about making jewelry or keychains or magnets with your leftover dried paint drippings? Are you wondering, what supplies do I need or where do I start? You have come to the right place. Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my art channel and thank you for stopping by. So if you have been fluid painting for any great length of time, chances are you've heard of or seen other people who are making jewelry and stuff like that with their paint skins. And it's often described as make free jewelry with your leftover paint drippings. Sounds great, right? It's not quite the way it works, because making all those things, it requires its own set of materials. So you just have to be prepared for that. That said, making jewelry and other small items is a great way to expand your product selection, especially if you're planning on selling in person at farmers markets or festivals and things like that. Because you might have lots of people that turn up their noses at paying $30 or $40 or $50 for a painting, but would have absolutely no trouble paying $10 or $15 or $20 for a necklace or a necklace and bracelet set. So there is potential for a lot of profit in selling small items. Enough about sales though, let's talk about what are paint skins and how do I get them. So a paint skin is basically just a layer of paint that has dried. If you spilled your paint on the tabletop and let it dry, you would then be able to come back in a couple days and just peel it right up off of the surface. That's a paint skin. It's flexible, it's its own unit. It is a piece of dried paint that you can then use. And you can often use the front side or the back side depending on what kind of surface it's fallen on. A lot of times what you can do, if you have a painting surface that doesn't have to get cleaned up in between each use, if you have a dedicated painting table, then after you do a painting, you can just let the drippings fall and stay there for a couple of days and peel them up and then store them somewhere else while you do your next painting. And then you have all of these beautiful designs that have just come right off your table, and those are completely recycled. You don't need to make anything new for them. Now that can be tricky if, for example, you have to paint on your dining room table, which is how I did it for at least a year before we moved and I had more space. So if it's something like that and you just can't, then that's not as feasible, but there are other ways to get paint skins. The other downfall of using paint skins that's just your drippings is that it's not always a great design. Sometimes you'll get, a paint skin that's mostly white with like a few colors, or the designs as the paint falls is just kind of boring, or, it doesn't always look great as it runs off of a painting. Sometimes it does, other times it doesn't. So one way to save it, if you've got great colors but not great design, is you can take a toothpick or a popsicle stick and just kind of swirl through that design and make some little swirls, make some curly cues, and that in and of itself can make a pattern that might make more attractive paint skins. So that's what to do with table drippings. If you don't have a way of leaving your table drippings, or if you just want to make more intentional looking paint skins, you can make them exactly to be paint skins. So what I like to do is take like a piece of cardboard and cover it with freezer paper. Freezer paper is plastic coated, so the paint skins can peel right off of it once they're dry. But that way you have something that you can kind of tip around as a surface. And then you just pour some paint on there exactly as if it were a canvas. This can be like, say you did a ring pour and you didn't pour out the last ½ ounce that was in your cup. Okay, what do you do with that? Rinse it out, throw it away? It's waste at this point. But if you take your little plastic coated surface and you can pour out that cup in a ring pour, in a straight pour, in some kind of design, you can pour it and make just a tiny little puddle, little design, stretch it out, tilt it around, get the pattern nice, and then let that dry, and you have a beautiful paint skin, which has much better layers than you would get from drippings. So there are a lot of different ways that you can make paint skins, and those make my favorite paint skins. I mean, I do save some that fall on the table just because I don't like to waste, but the ones with the designs that I end up using a lot are usually the ones that I have made myself from the leftover, not so much the paint that's already fallen, but the paint that is in my cup. And I say, I can't save this, but I can pour it out and save that. So that's how you make a paint skin. Make sure to let it dry, peel it up, don't stack them all together or they will stick together. So keep them separate in like Ziploc bags or page protectors. One other important thing about paint skins, I do not ever save the paint skins from the paintings that have silicone oil in them. Just because when I make a painting with silicone oil, I clean that silicone off before I varnish. When you've got the paint skins and the silicone's in there, you don't know where it is. Are you going to take your paint skins and wash them with soap and water? I don't trust it. I feel like the silicone oil in the paint skin might make the glue not stick as well. So I do not use paint skins from paintings that have used silicone oil, even though that makes great cells and it's like, oh man, but I like to be safe and try to make a good product. So don't use skins with silicone. Okay, now that we know all about what a paint skin is and how to get it, what other materials do you need to make jewelry or magnets or keychains or other things out of your paint skins? So what you need, the main thing is, if you don't want to use resin, which I don't personally use resin just because of the health risks, but if you don't want to use resin, a great way to do it is with these glass things called cabochons. So a cabochon, it's almost like a tiny little paperweight, like a mini magnifying glass. So it is a glass dome, and they come in different sizes. And it's amazing what it does because once the glue's on, it magnifies your design and it makes the metallic colors really sparkle. So cabochons are great. Along with the cabochons, you'll need something called pendant trays. And you can just do a Google search, Amazon search for those. They come in different sizes and they're usually to fit the cabochons. So I like 1 inch, which is 30 millimeters, pendant trays for necklaces, and the 20 millimeters for bracelets and keychains. But you can get whatever sizes you want. There are teardrop shaped, there are squares, there are hearts, there are circles, there are ovals, there are rectangles, there are so many shapes. And a lot of the time you can find listings that have the cabochons and the pendant trays in the same in the same listing, and you can buy them together. And that's great if you're just starting out. If you're wanting to do it a little bit more, I like buying them separately because then you're not locked into, oh no, I glued this in the wrong place and now I have a wasted tray. You have more versatility and options. The next thing that you need is called diamond glaze, and this is a clear glue that you use to glue the cabochon onto the paint skin. So then for gluing that cabochon plus paint skin into the pendant tray, I like to use clear Gorilla Glue. That's what was recommended to me when I first started, and I have really enjoyed using that. It's worked great for me. Gorilla Glue is nice and strong. It's very durable. This isn't super glue. This isn't the foaming Gorilla Glue. This is just clear glue, but it's nice and strong, makes a great bond, and that's what I use to hold it into the pendant tray. One other thing that you will need is some of these clamps. I got these at Walmart. They're just plastic clips, but they help to add the pressure when you are putting everything together. You can hold that pressure on while the glue sets. So then you'll need necklace chains or necklace bands or bracelet bands or something like that, especially if the cabochons and trays that you're buying do not already have those built into the package. Some of them do, some of them don't. But you'll need something to actually turn those pendants into a necklace or into a bracelet or into a keychain. So maybe you want some of those little keychain clasps. Or if you want to make magnets, you'll need some magnets. And sometimes you can buy packs that have the cabochons and the magnets in the same pack. So those are the materials that you need, as well as the paint skins. And when you're first buying everything, the cost will add up. But as you sell, you'll pay for it back pretty quickly. You know, if you spend $100 on supplies, you only need to sell 10 necklaces at $10 each, and you've paid back all of the supplies. So it pays for itself pretty fast if you're able to sell some, but it will require an initial investment. All right, now we have all of our materials. How do we go about actually gluing everything together? So you're going to want to get your bottle of diamond glaze, and if it's unopened, you'll need to cut off the tip so that you have a fine little point where the glue can squeeze out. If it's a bottle that's already been opened, use a pin to sort of unseal that tip because the glue gets stuck in it, and you'll have to use that pin every time you use it. So you open up your bottle of glue, you get out your paint skins, and then take your cabochons and just set them on the paint skins to figure out what pieces of the paint skin would make a good design. Because you might look at the paint skin and go, that's beautiful, but then when you actually place the cabochons, it doesn't make sense. Or you might have a paint skin that looks just random and chaotic, but when you actually frame it in those circles or in those teardrops, then it looks amazing. And then, when you're ready, pick up your cabochon and just put a tiny drop of the diamond glaze onto the cabochon. You really don't need much, and the more you practice it, the more you'll figure out what the amount is that you'll need. But start with just a small amount, and then you push it down on the skin and press it down nice and hard. You'll see if there's little air bubbles in that glue. You'll see them slide to the side. You'll see the glue spread to the side, and you'll know when you've got it all covered. But press down nice and hard because you're really trying to contact every bit of that surface. So then you just keep doing that same thing over and over for each cabochon until you're done with what you're doing for that day. So then you need to wait for the diamond glaze to fully dry and cure, and that takes a number of hours. I like to leave it overnight. I don't usually hold to a strict 24 hours, but I do let it go at least overnight. And that makes sure that the diamond glaze has fully set before you start messing with it. Once the glue is dry, then what you need is just a pair of scissors, and you just cut around the cabochon. So I like to tilt the scissors so that they're angling slightly underneath the cabochon, and that way it really gets all the way down to the edge of the paint skin, and you trim off what you don't need. Once you've cut off the majority of the skin around it, then you just look for those little corners and just trim those off, because those will show up in a tray. So just trim them off until it looks nice and neat. Another good thing to do is to take that cabochon and just with the tip of your finger, kind of run it along the edge and see if the paint skin wants to peel back at all. Because if it does, especially if you're using really thick, pliable paint skins, like from a bloom technique or something like that, sometimes they won't stick as well and they will want to peel back. If that's the case, just add a tiny little drop of diamond glaze into that hole, press it back on, and wait another few hours before you keep using it. No problem. So once you have all of your cabochons cut out, you can move straight to the next step, which is gluing them into the pendant trays or onto some magnets. So for that, I use the Gorilla Glue. And the Gorilla Glue, I follow the directions on the bottle, which is, if you're using it on non-porous surfaces, for example, metal, you would first dampen that surface. So I wipe it with a damp paper towel first, and then add just a very small amount of Gorilla Glue into the middle of that tray. And again, this is an amount that the more you do it, the better feel you'll get for it. You do not want so little that it's not going to make a good stick, but you don't want so much that it's all going to squirt out the sides, which you will find out what I mean the first time you try it with too much glue. So try to find that balance and pay attention to how much of that Gorilla Glue you're putting in the middle. You don't need much. Then you put your cabochon in there and get it all lined up. Actually, you should line it up before you put the glue in. But you get it all lined up and then you press it down nice and hard. You want to push really hard and see if there are places where the glue is going to start squirting out. If it does, not a problem, just grab some paper towel and wipe that off. If it doesn't look like there's glue squirting out, then you take a plastic clamp and put that cabochon right inside the clamp, and then pay attention and make sure that you're getting it all centered, because sometimes the clamp can kind of squeeze it one direction or the other, and you'll take it out and it'll be off center. So just look at it from the side, make sure you don't have any more glue squirting out the side, and make sure that the cabochon is centered in that tray. Then you can just set aside that clamp, and you want to leave it clamped for about 2 hours. Again, I'm following the directions from the Gorilla Glue bottle. You leave it clamped for 2 hours, and then you can take the clamp off and it'll be fully cured in about 24 hours. All right, so when your pieces are all glued, they're all in their clamps, you let them sit for the 2 hours, then you can unclamp them, leave them until the next day. Again, about 24 hours. Once that's done, then start taking a look at them and see if there's any glue, diamond glaze or Gorilla Glue, that has gotten on the surface of the cabochons. If there is, you can use a razor blade and scrape that off. The razor blade is not going to scrape the glass as you do this, and it will get all the way down to the surface and get up any film that's there. If there is some sort of cloudiness, haziness that's there, and the razor blade doesn't seem to be touching it, you can also use something like 90% rubbing alcohol, and you can wipe that onto the cabochon, and that'll help dissolve some of that glue remains, and then you can wipe it off really well. Sometimes all you need to do is polish that cabochon well, like with your t-shirt, and it gets nice and shiny. So yeah, check them all, make sure that they don't have glue residue on the front, and then go ahead and add the chains or the necklace cord, or attach the bracelet bands, or attach the keychain parts, and you have some finished pieces. Woo! So here are the pieces that I made as part of this video. We've got some necklaces and matching bracelets. We've got a keychain and a couple of magnets, and they turned out really nice. And these are things that can sell where it's not that much money for one piece. But if you sell 5 of them, if you sell 10 of them, if you sell 20 of them, all of a sudden it's adding up, and you've made more money than you would have by selling 1 or 2 paintings. So there you have it, a comprehensive guide on how to make jewelry and other items using cabochons and your paint skins. Let me know down in the comments if you've ever tried this before, or if you're wanting to try it now. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope you'll come back to my channel and check out some of my other videos. I will see you for the next one. Bye!